We talk a lot about financial freedom, but what does that even mean? For most of us, it's this kind of fuzzy, far-off dream. Well, today we're going to change all that. We are going to take that vague idea of freedom and turn it into a hard number, a crystal clear target that you can actually see, and more importantly, that you can actually hit. Look, buying back your own freedom, that's a serious mission. You wouldn't try to climb Mount Everest in a pair of flip-flops, right? Of course not. This journey is exactly the same. It demands a plan, a map, and a very clear destination. And the very first step in all that preparation is figuring out exactly what that destination looks like. So, to really get our heads around this whole thing, I want to start with a quick story. It's called The Fable of the Hourglass, and honestly, it just perfectly sets the stage for everything we're about to do. Okay, so picture this, a land where everyone carries an hourglass, and to get food, you have to shake it, constantly, to get these little grains of sand to fall out. If you stop shaking, you stop eating. It's that simple. So what does everyone do? They shake. All day, every day. It's their entire life, just shaking away, so busy that they never even stop to ask why. Sound familiar? It's the daily grind, trading your precious time for money. But in this same land, there's another group of people. Let's call them the field owners. They don't have to shake anything. Why? Because their fields just produce grains, all on their own. Their wealth literally grows while they sleep. That's passive income. Their assets are doing the work for them. And here's where it gets interesting. There's a third group. Now, they still have to shake their hourglass every single day, but they make a different choice. Even though they're exhausted, at the end of the day, they take a few of their hard-earned grains and they plant them. At first, you see nothing, but with a ton of patience and discipline, a tiny sprout appears, then another, and over time they build their own little field, until one day, they realize they don't have to shake their hourglass anymore if they don't want to. They've built their own freedom, one tiny grain at a time. That fable just nails it, doesn't it? It shows us the goal. So how do we start planting our own grains? Well, the very first step on our quest is a super practical one. We need to figure out exactly how many grains we need to live. In other words, we've got to know our expenses. And I know what you might be thinking. Meet Sandra. She felt the exact same way. The whole idea of budgeting can feel like a total drag, right? Like the complete opposite of freedom. But here's what she learned. You can't hit a target that you can't even see. And the good news? You don't have to become some spreadsheet wizard or an accountant. It's really just about getting a clear, simple picture. Just look at your last few months of spending and group things into these big categories. Rent, food, transport, the usual suspects. Perfection is not the goal here, just a good, solid average. So after getting over that initial feeling, Sandra did exactly that. She figured out her monthly spending was around 1,400 euros. Then she added in those annoying annual costs, taxes, insurance, which came to about 2,400 for the year. Put it all together, her total annual need was 19,200 euros. And just like that, boom, she had clarity. Okay, so now we have a number for the cost of living. That's a huge step. But here's the magic part. How do we transform that number into the actual price of freedom? It's time to calculate the grand prize. This is the question that changes everything. We're about to go from what I spend every year to what I need to be free forever. So, are you ready for the formula? It's actually way simpler than you think. Here it is. You take your total annual expenses, that number we just figured out, and you multiply it by 25. That's it. That is the formula. The number you get, that's your target. That is the value of your freedom. So for Sandra, she took her 19,200 euros, multiplied it by 25, and her freedom number? 480,000 euros. When you see it written down like that, it's not a fuzzy dream anymore, is it? It's a destination, a real, solid, tangible target you can aim for. All right, I can already hear the next question. Okay, wait a minute. Why 25? Where on earth did you get that number? It's not magic, I promise. It's math, and it's based on decades of financial research. So let's break down the rules of the game. Yeah, this isn't just some random rule of thumb somebody made up. It's a principle that's been backed up by a ton of studies on how investments perform over the long, long haul. It all comes down to something called the 4% rule. The idea is that once you have your pile of money invested, you can safely withdraw 4% of it every single year to live on, and you shouldn't run out. Now, think about it. Why did we multiply by 25? Because multiplying by 25 is the exact same thing as finding what number you can take 4% from. They're just two sides of the same coin. 4% of Sandra's €480,000 portfolio is, you guessed it, €19,200, her exact annual need. So what's the engine that makes this whole thing work? It's actually pretty simple. Historically, a good, diversified investment portfolio has returned about 7% per year on average, even after you account for inflation. So if your money is growing by 7%, but you're only taking out 4% to pay your bills, see what's happening? Your nest egg isn't just surviving, it can actually keep growing, even while you're living off of it. I get it. A number like €480,000 can feel, well, huge. It can feel a little intimidating, but here's the thing. You don't have to conquer the whole mountain in one giant leap. We can break this quest down into smaller, much more manageable chunks. Let's think about freedom in 3 different levels. First, there's basic freedom. That's when your investments cover just the absolute essentials like rent and food. Then you have intermediate freedom. That covers your entire current lifestyle. That's the number we just calculated. And finally, there's ideal freedom, where your passive income could replace your entire salary. So if we map this out for Sandra, it looks something like this. That first big milestone, basic freedom, is a €270,000 goal. The next level up is that €480,000 target we found. And her ultimate goal, ideal freedom, that's €600,000. All of a sudden, the journey isn't this one terrifying leap, it's a series of steps you can actually take. And every level you hit buys you more options and less time shaking that hourglass. And this was the real turning point for Sandra. The second she saw her numbers broken down like this, that fear just melted away, and it was replaced with focus. That vague dream became a real plan. She felt totally empowered, and for the first time, she was genuinely excited to get started. So, now it's back to you. The path from shaking an hourglass to owning your own field, it's a long one for sure. But for the first time, maybe ever, you can see the destination. You know how to calculate your number. You literally have the map in your hands. So the only question left is, what's your first step going to be?